Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Authorities from New York's Monroe County Sheriff's Office say that a local 53-year-old woman has been arrested and is facing charges after she was accused of murdering her own sister who disappeared earlier this month. The case began on October 11th when Monroe County police were asked to conduct a welfare check at the home of 62-year-old Penny Bush. Family members said that they had not seen or heard from her in several days. When officers arrived at Penny's 8-acre property in the village of Honeoye Falls, no one answered the door and there was no sign of her anywhere. However, as they looked around, they found undisclosed evidence that made them believe something was seriously wrong. Over the next 3 days, the search at the property continued until investigators received some new information. That information led them to a section of the Genesee River in the town of Rush, about an hour's drive away from the home. There, police sadly found and recovered Penny's remains. In court documents released this week, police revealed that they believe Penny's sister, 53-year-old Jamie Bush, is responsible for her death. They allege that Jamie strangled Penny during a physical altercation sometime on the afternoon or evening of October 8th. The following day, she drove to a local Dunkin' Donuts, where she reportedly threw away Penny's 3 cell phones. Sometime between then and October 12th, it's alleged that she dumped her remains in the river. At the time of this recording, no information has been released about a possible motive, though it's been reported that Jamie Bush is now facing 1 count of second-degree murder and 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence. The 53-year-old is said to be a worker at an area middle school and has now been placed on leave. Authorities in Monroe County, Tennessee say that they are trying to piece together an unsettling mystery after an Alabama man wanted on a parole violation allegedly tried to fake a bear attack to cover up a murder as part of a bizarre stolen identity plot. The whole thing began sometime on October 18th when police received a 911 call from a man claiming to be a distressed hiker. The man identified himself as Brandon Andrade and said that he had just been seriously injured after falling off a cliff while being chased by a bear. After locating the coordinates of the cell phone call, authorities went into a wooded area in the small town of Tellico Plains. There, they found a man lying at the bottom of a cliff. He was dead and had clearly suffered a number of injuries. A search of the man's body revealed an ID card matching the name the caller had given them. However, it wasn't long before things took a strange turn. Closer inspection revealed that this was not Brandon's body. Not only that, but the real Brandon's ID had been stolen and used on multiple occasions before the 911 call. Upon further investigation, police were allegedly able to link an Alabama man named Nicholas Wayne Hamlet to the crime. The 45-year-old is currently wanted for parole violations and has a disturbing criminal history. According to reports, in 2012, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison after he lured a man into the woods and held him at gunpoint before trying to hit him with a baseball bat. Hamlet then attempted to bury the victim alive. Interestingly, he also used an alias in that case. Right now, police say that they do not know the identity of the victim whose remains were recovered after the 911 call last week, but that they are continuing to pursue leads. At the same time, they are searching for Nicholas Hamlet, who now has an arrest warrant out for first-degree murder. Anyone with information about the 45-year-old is encouraged to reach out to police. Members of the public are advised not to approach Hamlet, as he is considered armed and dangerous. Authorities in Cincinnati, Ohio say that an elderly woman is facing charges this week after she allegedly shot and killed a man while she claims they were fooling around with a gun. The whole thing began shortly before 8 p.m. on October 20th when police received a 911 call from 77-year-old Kathleen Geiger. Geiger stated that someone had been shot and that they needed help right away. When authorities arrived at the scene, a residence on the 2700 block of East Tower Drive, they found the victim, 58-year-old Arthur Osborne. He had sustained a single gunshot wound somewhere between his hip and groin area and was pronounced dead at the scene. Upon being asked what had happened, Geiger reportedly said that she had accidentally shot Arthur. She claimed that while they were, quote, engaged in harmless banter, Arthur had, quote, jokingly requested that she shoot him. She stated that she didn't think her gun was loaded, so she pulled the trigger. Geiger was arrested and has now been charged with reckless homicide. In a statement following the incident, prosecutors said that Geiger's claim that she didn't think the gun was loaded was beside the point. They argued at her arraignment, quote, "Everyone who possesses a firearm has a responsibility to do it responsibly. You never point a firearm at anything and pull the trigger unless you intend to destroy it. The defendant pointed a firearm at someone and pulled the trigger, resulting in their death." There also appears to be some question as to how long it was before Geiger called for help between when the fatal shot was fired and when Arthur actually died. In sources we came across, police stated that she eventually provided medical aid and made the emergency call, suggesting that there was some delay. How this factors into the case, though, remains to be seen. Authorities in Lewisville, Texas are investigating the aftermath of a disturbing and senseless act of violence after a local man who was obsessed with his coworker allegedly shot and killed her at her desk in broad daylight, then offered a horrifying excuse for his actions. The whole thing began just after 11:30 a.m. on October 17th, when Lewisville police began receiving calls from terrified employees at Allegiance Trucking. The caller stated that one of their colleagues had just been shot in front of them at their offices on the 1800 block of Lakeway Drive. They explained that the shooter was another employee, 51-year-old Travis Merrill. When officers arrived, Merrill quickly surrendered and was taken into custody. The victim, Tamara Colazzo, was found suffering from multiple gunshot wounds inside her cubicle. She was rushed to a hospital, though sadly it was later pronounced dead from her injuries. The situation only got more unsettling when authorities began speaking with Merrill, and he revealed the reason behind his alleged actions. He reportedly admitted to being obsessed with Tamara and said that he killed her because she didn't pay attention to him and took, quote, unauthorized long breaks at their workplace. Merrill apparently went on to explain that he had been meticulously tracking Tamara's breaks for some time and had grown increasingly angry about them. This wasn't exactly subtle, and Tamara eventually went to Human Resources to complain about Merrill's strange behavior. After being reported, Merrill was told that he couldn't come back to the office until he received counseling. When he did eventually return, Tamara did her best to avoid him, but this just made him angrier. During his conversations with police, Merrill alleged that he could tell Tamara didn't want to be around him, and after being disciplined, felt like a pariah in the office. He claimed that because Tamara had, quote, caused him pain, he decided he wanted to cause her pain as well. That's when he went out and purchased some firearms. Merrill stated that he practiced with the weapons at home and brought them to work on at least 2 separate occasions before finally carrying out the crime. On the day of the murder, he reportedly followed Tamara outside when she took her lunch break and watched her while she was in her car. When she headed back inside, he once again shadowed her, following her back to her desk where he opened fire. She was struck at least 4 times during the shooting in view of roughly 24 other employees. At the time of this recording, Merrill remains in custody. However, formal charges have not been announced against him. An Alabama man apparently decided to add a splash of color to what was already a bizarre situation this week after he allegedly threatened to blow up a retail store, only to be taken into custody with what appeared to be marker all over his face. The whole thing began sometime shortly before 10 a.m. on October 19th, when police were called to an Ulta beauty store at a shopping plaza in the city of Opelika. Dispatchers were told that an employee at the business was out front when they overheard something alarming. A man who was standing right outside the doors, later identified as 42-year-old Timothy Vincent Lincoln, was reportedly on the phone and was making disturbing threats. At one point, he allegedly stated, quote, "I'm going to blow this shit up," causing the employee to run back inside and warn her coworkers. As employees and customers scrambled out to safety, police arrived and placed Lincoln under arrest. When they did, he was apparently covered in what appeared to be colorful marker, which he had drawn on his face and beard with. It's not clear when he did this or where he got the materials that he used. While most of the circumstances surrounding the situation currently remain a mystery, what we do have is a picture of Lincoln's strange mugshot. The 42-year-old is now charged with making a terroristic threat in the first degree. If convicted, he reportedly faces up to 10 years in prison. He has also been banned from Ulta beauty stores for life. It's safe to say that clowns freak a lot of people out under the best of circumstances. Well, imagine the nightmare that one Colorado family is going through after a clown mask-wearing man allegedly broke into their home during the middle of the night and tried to kidnap a young girl who lives there. The whole thing began sometime between 1 and 2 a.m. on October 15th, when the victim, who was just 8 years old, was in her own bed in the municipality of Sterling. The girl was apparently sound asleep when she was suddenly ripped from her dreams by an adult male attacker. The man, who was wearing a clown mask over his face, allegedly blindfolded the girl and tried to take her. When she bravely fought back, he reportedly choked her and struck her in the head so hard that she was briefly left unconscious. When the girl came to, she ran to her mother for help, at which point the police were called. Thankfully, the 8-year-old victim didn't suffer life-threatening injuries. However, according to an affidavit, she sustained a nasty bruise to one of her eyes and a wound to the back of her head that required staples. The culprit left a pair of gloves at the scene, as well as the clown mask he'd used to disguise himself. This turned out to be consequential, as apparently surveillance video in the area of the man without the mask has since been used to identify him. The suspect has been publicly named as 56-year-old Thomas Gallegos. As if this weren't bad enough, apparently Gallegos is a neighbor of the victims and recently came over to help the family install a washer and dryer. He was arrested on October 19th and is now facing several charges, including first-degree burglary, second-degree assault, attempted second-degree kidnapping, third-degree assault, and child abuse. Authorities in Memphis, Tennessee say that a 26-year-old man is facing numerous charges in connection with a horrifying domestic violence incident after he allegedly killed his ex-girlfriend in broad daylight while she was volunteering at a charity event. The incident began just after noon on October 19th when police were called about a shooting in the parking lot of the Shelby Farms Visitor Center. At the time, the area was packed with people who were in the middle of participating in the American Cancer Society's Making Strides Against Breast Cancer event. When officers arrived at the scene, they found 22-year-old medical student Ellie Young lying on the ground near her Jeep Wrangler. She was suffering from multiple gunshot wounds and sadly was pronounced dead at the scene. Very quickly, attention turned to Ellie's former boyfriend, 26-year-old Jackson Hopper. The pair had recently broken up, and witnesses reportedly spotted someone matching his description who they said had carried out the fatal attack. It's now alleged that Ellie was in her Jeep after volunteering at the charity event when Hopper pulled up near her in his Honda CR-V. He's then accused of firing at least 2 shots into the back of the Jeep, hitting Ellie, who tried to exit the vehicle to escape. Disturbingly, it's reported that Hopper fired at least 1 more shot into Ellie as she lay wounded on the ground. By the time police arrived, Hopper had already fled the scene. However, he was quickly located. He refused to pull over when a traffic stop was initiated, prompting a multi-county chase that lasted for approximately 80 miles. During the high-speed pursuit, Hopper allegedly drove on the wrong side of the highway into oncoming traffic and attempted to hit at least 2 officers who were setting up spike strips to disable his vehicle. The chase finally ended when another deputy performed a pit maneuver, causing the 26-year-old's Honda to overturn. He was taken to a hospital after the crash, but has since been arrested and is facing a number of charges, including first-degree murder, possession of a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony, felony evading, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, reckless driving, and resisting arrest. Loved ones of Ellie Young said that they are now grieving her loss. A fundraising page set up in her memory states in part, quote, "Ellie was taken from us too soon. A beautiful soul inside and out, Ellie dedicated her life towards serving others and was well on her way to becoming an incredible physician. She was walking sunshine, and the world is now a darker place without her." Authorities in King County, Washington say that they are investigating the aftermath of an awful tragedy this week after a teenage boy allegedly gunned down almost his entire family during a terrifying early morning rampage. The incident began shortly before 5 a.m. on October 21st when King County police received a 911 call from a 15-year-old boy. The teen said that he was hiding in a bathroom inside his home in the community of Fall City and that his younger brother had just tried to kill their entire family. As officers raced to the location, a $2 million property on a normally quiet stretch of Lake Alice Road, they received a second call though. This one was from the 15-year-old's younger sister. The 11-year-old girl told dispatchers that her brother was lying to them. It was him who had tried to kill everyone, and she was the only person who had managed to escape. When police arrived at the home, they were greeted by a nightmarish scene. Inside, they would ultimately find the bodies of 5 people scattered throughout the residence. All of them had suffered multiple gunshot wounds and were pronounced dead at the scene. They have since been identified as husband and wife, 43-year-old Mark and 42-year-old Sarah Humiston, as well as 3 of their children, 13-year-old Benjamin, 9-year-old Joshua, and 7-year-old Catherine. The 15-year-old, who had originally called police, who is said to be the eldest of Mark and Sarah's children, claimed during conversations with officers that Benjamin was the one who had carried out the shooting. He stated that he had been caught watching X-rated videos the previous night and knew he was going to get in trouble. Benjamin did reportedly have a gun in his hand when his body was found by authorities. However, they say that his injuries and forensic evidence at the scene do not match this story. Instead, police now allege that the 15-year-old, whose name has so far not been released, was the actual perpetrator of the crime. Much of what investigators know apparently comes from the 11-year-old 911 caller, another of Mark and Sarah's children, who is believed to be the sole survivor of the crime. The 11-year-old told investigators that she was asleep in bed that morning when she heard multiple gunshots. Moments later, she stated her 15-year-old brother barged into her room and shot her and their sister Catherine. The 11-year-old was hit in the hand and neck, but said that she had played dead, so her brother didn't know she was still alive. When she felt that the coast was clear, she climbed out of her bedroom window and ran to get help. She was treated for her injuries and is said to be recovering. In terms of the true motive behind the crime, nothing has been confirmed at this point, though multiple reports have stated that the 15-year-old suspect had gotten into serious trouble for failing tests at school recently. Police believe that he tried to stage the scene to make it look like his younger brother was responsible and make it look like he was the only survivor. The 11-year-old witness says that he was also the only one that knew the combination to their dad's gun safe. Neighbors in the area say that they are shocked by what happened and that the family was quiet and there had never been any issues there prior. However, other reports state that the children were raised in an extremely religious and controlling environment. Most of them were homeschooled, and the parents allegedly dictated who they could speak to and be friends with. At the time of this recording, the 15-year-old suspect remains in custody and has been charged with 5 counts of first-degree aggravated murder and 1 count of first-degree attempted murder. It is currently being decided whether he will be tried as a juvenile or an adult. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.